Tape dancing. Tape dancing.
Tape dancing.
Tape dancing. Betamax.
VHS. Cassette.
Tape dancing.
Tape dancing.
And now, the co-presenter of 1998 CBBC Slimford Christie's Record Breakers. Give him a big hand. It's your host, it's Jack Latimer.
Yes, hello and welcome to episode 9 of Tape Dancing, which is the double special featured episode of Tape Dancing, episode 9, with Iasos, the famous Greek composer who is an originator and pioneer of the New Age genre of music, but also on the farther half of the double special featured episode is the Commodore 16 games console computer. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is Tape Dancing. We're supposed to be watching tapes or listening to tapes. How are we going to be playing tapes? Well, the Commodore 16 games console games came on tape. So you'd be thinking, how is this? How could this be? How is this possible? How could this be? That's what's happening. So, and we have one of the we have one of the Commodore 16s in the studio tonight. We have one of them. I'm going to be playing it a little bit later, but first up, let's hear a little bit about our first of the double special features, which is Iasos.
You said that this music came to you. Where from?
Okay. Around 67 or 68, I just started hearing it in my head and I didn't know where it was coming from. It was just like a radio station inside. And so I'd be running around listening to it and loving it. I had a profound experience where I sensed a particular being from a higher dimension, and then I knew that instant that he was the one that all this time had been purposely mind to mind transmitting it into my mind. And I also remembered him from before I was born. I realize this is hard for you to believe, but at least I'm telling you what I believe, and you're free to handle that reality any way you like. I'm functioning as a step-down transformer to recreate these patterns here on the physical dimension. And a simple example is joy. If you knock that up an octave, by the way, that means double the frequency. Joy, an octave higher, is ecstasy. An octave higher, it's rapture. And it just keeps going. So it's had an effect on me. Some people, they've heard my music, and not only does it remind them of higher dimensions, but it even makes them homesick for it. It doesn't bother with a lot of earthly concepts like only one melody at a time or two melodies at a time. They might have they might have 60,000 melodies at a time. And also how much you hear depends on where your nervous system is at. For example, if you're an ascended master listening to it, you hear a certain amount. If you're an archangel, you might hear even more. UFOs are a multi-dimensional reality that temporarily is perceived by people on this physical dimension. Sometimes people will see a UFO and others won't, even though they're looking at the same place, same time. And the reason some see it is because their visual cortex is picking up on higher frequencies, like a radio hearing higher frequencies, and the other person isn't.
Thank you, Iasos. Yes, we're going to be hearing a special performance by Iasos a little bit later on in the show. But before we move on, let's hear three little facts about Iasos that you might not have previously known before watching tonight's show or today's show, depending on what time you're watching this show. Right, so Iasos started learning the piano at 8 years old. Doesn't seem right. Are we sure about that? It's amazing. So he started learning the piano at 8 years old. We should cross-check that. I mean, most of us were still potty training at that age. I know I was. And this guy's learning the piano. He started learning the piano at 8. His music has been used by NASA. I'm guessing at possibly an aquarium, a planetarium. And the last fact is that his music has been described as angelic. So that means it sounds like it's being played by angels, cherubs. Let's move on to our second special half of the double featured episode, the Commodore 16. We've got one in the studio tonight, and I'm going to have a little play of it. I really have been looking forward to this. Now we have the console set up and ready to go. It's time to put in our first game tape, which is Prospector Pete, who is a mining old man. Yeah, you gotta collect these things. You no. Quite fast for an old man. Come on, Pete. Torpedo Alley. Torpedo Alley, of course, not to be confused with Pedo Alley, which is a back street in Watford town, where there's no paedophiles go there. It's just a bunch of 16, 17-year-old kids on bikes, and they call decent men pedos. And it so happens to be my quickest way to get to the high street from the car park I use. And so I get called names. And what's weird is I'm not... My point is they can't really call me a paedophile because I'm not that much older than them. Could just be a gay relationship. So there you have it, the Commodore 16, which comes in a box. You can bid on it on the internet. It's... Can I put that down now? So there you go, the first tapes to ever be played on tape dancing. But now let's go back to Iasos with a special performance. Thank you, Iasos. That was a very special performance from Iasos on a very special episode of Tape Dancing, episode 9, the double special featured episode. But before we go, we have cross-checked that fact, and it is 100% true that Iasos did start learning the piano at 8 years old. So that's something to go away and think about until the next episode of Tape Dancing, episode 10. See you then.
Alright, so I have some girls to my dance tonight that are nice with a transmission side. The original jam rock crew looted and stitch the root while the pandem and tell them this. This is acid, and I want to use the jam rock first. Alright, so I'm past now. I'm going to be on this.